When the very people who are supposed to fight for your success start undermining it instead, what are you left with? That's the situation Caitlin Clark finds herself in today. The WNBA Players Association has been exposed for actions that hurt the league more than help it, even going as far as jeopardizing the entire 2026 season, and all of it played out in front of the public eye. While that chaos unfolds, Clark stepped into a brand new role as an analyst on NBC, handling the moment with class and confidence. She spoke calmly about believing an agreement will eventually be reached, showing the kind of leadership this league has been missing. Instead of feeding into drama, she continues to rise above it, but on the other side, many of the league's longtime veterans seem more focused on personal agendas than real progress. Their constant pushback and negativity are creating division at a time when the WNBA should be united and growing. It raises a serious question. Is it time for a new generation, led by players like Clark, to take a seat at the negotiating table?
A slap in the face, you say. Our offers aren't good enough, you claim. We didn't come to the table with anything of substance, you said. The WNBA owners are playing chess while the players are playing checkers.
It turns out that Nneka Ogwumike is a liar. There was a WNBA proposal at that meeting, and this is what it is.
For weeks, the Players Association pushed a narrative that no serious proposal had ever been made. They framed the situation as a battle against stubborn owners who supposedly refused to come to the table. Many fans bought into that story, convinced these longtime players were fighting for justice and better conditions for everyone. Public support swung heavily in their favor, but that carefully built image didn't last. The moment the owners decided to go public with the actual details of their offer, the entire storyline began to crumble. Suddenly, on the claim that nothing meaningful had been presented didn't hold up anymore. What was sold as a fight for fairness started looking a lot more like a calculated PR strategy, and once the full truth came out, it became clear that things weren't nearly as one-sided as the union had made them seem.
Some of the rhetoric I've heard from their side has been a little bit troublesome, like when a deal is presented that's over $1 million max salary and revenue share, it's called a slap in the face. Use different words. And I'm worried that the players might be getting to a point where they might be losing some of the support from the public. The players just need to be a little bit more careful with how they're articulating things, because if you're working whatever job, a max salary of 1.2 million, average salary of 500,000, if you don't think it's fair, that's fine, but don't call it a slap in the face.
When the details finally came out, the offer turned out to be far better than anyone anticipated. Under the proposal, top player salaries would begin at more than $1.3 million in 2026, with the possibility of climbing past $2 million before the agreement even expires. The average player would see earnings rise to over $530,000 in just the first year, a massive leap from current figures. Even those on the lower end of the pay scale would benefit tremendously, with minimum salaries jumping from $67,000 to around $250,000. And the financial improvements didn't stop there. Ownership proposed giving players a full 70% share of net revenue, a number rarely seen in professional sports. On top of that, the deal included charter flights for every team throughout the season and a significant increase in guaranteed contracts.
2031, the max salary could be up to $2.4 million. If that's not growth of the league, then I must be a ding-dong. No, that is great. Going from little bitty $250,000 max to $2.4 million within 5 years is great, okay? Then the average salary will be $1 million. That's pretty damn good. That's just the base salary, okay? That's not the incentives, whatever.
This is the moment when the Players Association's entire story fell apart. After weeks of insisting there was no real proposal to even discuss, the truth revealed something completely different. The numbers on the table showed an agreement that would dramatically raise salaries and change the financial future of every player in the league. Fans had been told nothing existed, yet behind closed doors, there were offers that could turn many players into millionaires. That kind of misrepresentation should have immediately destroyed their credibility. Instead, the situation only got got worse. Two of the union's most prominent leaders, Kelsey Plum and Nafisa Collier, failed to attend critical in-person meetings with league ownership. These are the same voices constantly complaining about not being respected or listened to, but when the time came to actually sit down and negotiate, they simply didn't show up. The league was ready to have serious discussions, prepared to work toward a solution, and the very people demanding change were absent. Ownership was at the table trying to move the process forward, while union leadership chose not to be there when it mattered most. That says more than any press release ever could.
There. 2 gates to go. This is what digging deep looks like. Gang, gang. We're going to the meeting. You don't understand?
From a public perception standpoint, the Players Association handled the situation in the worst possible way. It's hard to demand respect and claim you're being ignored when you're the ones failing to show up to the meetings that actually matter. Fans quickly began to notice the gap between the union's loud online complaints and their real effort to finalize an agreement. The aggressive posts and dramatic statements on social media painted one picture, but their actions told a very different story. Instead of focusing on productive conversations at the negotiating table, they seemed far more interested in winning arguments on the internet. While they were busy talking about unfairness, they were turning their backs on proposals that could have significantly changed players' financial futures. They showed up to demonstrations with inflation props and flashy protests, yet couldn't manage to have their own leadership present for serious discussions. For supporters who genuinely wanted to see progress, the difference was impossible to overlook. What fans were getting looked less like a movement for change and more like a campaign for attention.
But honestly, it's the old guard that's holding the league back. They want to get their big paycheck one more time before they get out. That's all it is, because within 5 years, half them players will be gone. Wnba is old. She's 35. 5 years later, she'll be 40. She probably won't be in the league by that time. That's why she's probably pushing to get the biggest bag she can get, because she knows deep in her heart she ain't gonna get it. I'm telling you, it's all self-serving.
Once the negotiations were brought into the open, the real priorities of the Players Association became impossible to ignore. It started to look less like a genuine effort to reach a fair agreement and more like a coordinated attempt to stir up controversy, misleading fans about whether offers even existed. While top representatives failed to attend key meetings, made it clear this wasn't serious bargaining. What was being presented as a fight for players' rights increasingly resembled deliberate obstruction. Certain veteran voices seemed willing to put the entire 2026 season in danger just to push their own interests. And with everything unfolding in public view, the association's credibility crumbled under the weight of its own behavior. But the issues go far beyond poor negotiation strategy. Players like Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier are supposed to be leading the charge for a better future for the entire league. They present themselves as champions for fair pay and improved conditions, speaking on behalf of every athlete in the WNBA. Yet there are serious questions about what is really driving their decisions. Questions many fans are only now beginning to ask.
Sophie Cunningham said in a podcast previously, she sees the conflict of interest between Nafisa Collier, Breanna Stewart, and the WNBA. She sees the conflict of interest. So what are you doing to circumvent that conflict and actually get some of the real facts? Some of the real truths that could be taking place.
Both Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier aren't just players in the WNBA, they're also founders of Unrivaled, a newly created league that competes directly with it. That means they're sitting in negotiations making demands of WNBA ownership, while at the same time running a business designed to challenge the WNBA for talent, viewers, and sponsorship deals. When you step back and look at it, the conflict of interest is impossible to ignore. Every increase in WNBA salary makes their own league less necessary. Every boost in revenue for the WNBA means fewer financial opportunities for their competing venture. Packed arenas, higher ratings, and stronger sponsorships for the WNBA all work against the success of Unrivaled. In other words, the better the WNBA performs, the harder it becomes for their personal business project to grow. Yet these are the same people positioned as leaders in negotiations that are supposed to strengthen the very league they're now competing against. Their personal financial incentives are pulling them in the exact opposite direction of what they claim to be fighting for. That contradiction raises serious questions about whose interests they're really protecting.
So Nafisa Collier, during the Owls game, I believe she's still on the Lunar Owls, she talked to the broadcast about Unrivaled and gloated about what we're doing over here at Unrivaled. Oh yeah, sustainability. Oh really now? Okay, we have a roasting session on our hands, folks, and I didn't do the roasting, but Nafisa Collier, she's getting dragged through the mud with what she said yesterday. She's getting crushed online.
Stewart and Collier want WNBA fans to believe they're acting in everyone's best interest, yet they stand to gain personally if these talks fall apart. The reality is simple. A struggling WNBA directly helps their own business venture. If a season gets canceled or delayed, players will naturally look for other places to compete, and leagues like Unrivaled become the obvious alternative. That dynamic creates a glaring conflict that seriously undermines their credibility as representatives of WNBA athletes. This isn't just a minor ethical gray area, it's a direct contradiction of the responsibility they claim to carry. Younger stars, especially someone like Caitlin Clark, have built their futures around the growth and stability of the WNBA. Clark's arrival has generated massive interest, record viewership, and new revenue streams for the league. Yet the very people involved in negotiating agreements that affect her career are financially tied to a competing product. While publicly presenting themselves as advocates for all players, they benefit when the WNBA faces uncertainty and disruption. That raises a troubling question. Are they truly fighting for the league's future or for their own?
Nobody in here even cares. Nobody even in here cares. And I wouldn't be surprised if those people that came in just got handed free tickets. Wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. We got to make this look good. If you walk through the door, here's your free ticket. Here's your free ticket. If you're coming to the state of Florida, everybody traveling to the state of Florida is getting a free Unrivaled ticket, and they couldn't even fill up the building. That's crazy work. That's crazy.
When you really step back and look at the situation, it's hard not to shake your head. Fans are starting to put everything together and ask the uncomfortable but necessary questions. Are Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier truly standing up for every player in the WNBA? Or are they quietly looking out for their own financial interests above everyone else? Once you understand their personal stakes, a lot of their actions begin to make sense. A WNBA stuck in chaos and uncertainty directly benefits their competing league. The more instability there is, the easier it becomes to pull talent away and toward their own project. Instead of encouraging open dialogue, the association has shut down communication between players and team owners unless it happens through strict official channels. Rather than lowering tensions and working toward solutions, they've turned negotiations into public battles. Instead of presenting themselves as professional leaders focused on progress, they've repeatedly created unnecessary controversy, and every one of those moves happens to line up perfectly with what helps their rival business the most, even if it hurts the very players they claim to represent. When the people running your union also have a separate venture that profits from the league's struggles, real representation becomes impossible. At that point, it stops being advocacy and starts looking a lot more like calculated sabotage.
Let's be for real here, right? Unrivaled is so sustainable that they can't even attract the best players, but they couldn't even retain the other players. They couldn't attract Asia, they couldn't attract Caitlin, season 1, and they can't retain Angel, and they can't retain Sabrina season 2. But it's sustainable. We're losing stars, but it's just, oh no. Sustainable. They play all their games out of the same location. They train in the same location. Overhead is clearly much smaller. Issue being serious.
The leadership of the WNBA Players Association has made it clear where their loyalties truly lie, and it doesn't seem to be with the long-term growth of the league or the athletes who rely on it. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's first 2 seasons completely changed the landscape of women's basketball. Games that once struggled to draw crowds suddenly became must-see events whenever the Indiana Fever were on the schedule. TV viewership surged to levels the league hadn't experienced in years. Jerseys and merchandise flew off the shelves at record rates. Ticket demand skyrocketed across the board as new fans poured in. For the first time in a long time, the WNBA wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Clark helped turn what had often been treated as a niche product into something that captured national attention and brought in casual sports fans who had never watched before. Her impact reshaped the entire league in a way few players in history ever have.
Forget Tiger, forget Jordan. When it comes to boosting TV viewership, Caitlin Clark is the GOAT. When Tiger Woods won his first Masters Masters, audiences jumped 63% from the year before. When Michael Jordan returned to basketball, viewership jumped 200% from a week before. When Caitlin Clark played in her second NCAA final, viewership nearly quadrupled from 2 years before. As Clark is also elevating her sport as a whole. The NBA and pro golf were already popular when Jordan and Tiger came along, but Caitlin Clark has reset the expectation for what women's basketball can draw.
The veteran players responded to Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise with complaints and resistance instead of celebration. They criticized the influx of new fans who were showing up just to watch her play, treating this wave of enthusiasm as if it were a threat rather than a blessing to a league that desperately needed every viewer it could get. Rather than embracing the attention and riding the wave of momentum, they focused on resentment, jealousy over sharing the spotlight with someone whose achievements were earned on the court. To them, Clark's success felt like a personal loss, even though her popularity was elevating the entire WNBA. More fans in the stands meant higher revenue. Record-breaking TV ratings created better broadcast deals. Packed arenas opened the door for sponsorship growth. Everything Clark built financially and culturally benefited every player in the league. Yet, instead of seeing her as an ally for progress, the veterans acted as if she were the enemy, ignoring the fact that her rise was lifting the sport to heights they themselves could only hope to reach.
God gave you a person, and now you're rejecting it. Y'all should be like Caesar. I appreciate you, Caitlin. Thank you. I can eat a little bit better. She got paid this. She get a signature shoe. Hey, I'm a 2-time MVP. I'm a champion. The fact that there's this much animosity about the person that's feeding you. And I'm gonna say it just like, she's feeding y'all. Yes. Doors that y'all didn't do. So to be honest, shut up. Cause y'all couldn't do it. Just accept it and benefit. Be happy.
Throughout both seasons, Caitlin Clark handled every bit of criticism with unwavering professionalism. So she stayed focused on basketball while others stirred up conflict. She gave thoughtful, respectful interviews, even as veteran players ranted and posted inflammatory content online. She dedicated herself to improving her game, while union leaders orchestrated publicity stunts and protests. The gap between her maturity and their pettiness became impossible to ignore. At a time when the WNBA needed to project credibility and stability, the Players Association made the league look chaotic. Their aggressive social media battles alienated fans. Their protests, complete with inflatable rats, made the sport seem petty and unstable. And all of it was targeted at the very player who was generating the most positive attention for the league. In short, while Clark was elevating the WNBA's profile, the union's actions were undermining it, turning progress into spectacle.
When she announced she was going pro, I immediately ran over to Lynn Dunn and said, "We have Elvis." She's like, "What?" I said, "There's been a lot of singers in music. There's only one Elvis. This is Elvis." And I knew, I've been in sports for 40 years, I knew this was something special. There's moving the needle, she's the needle. And I say it, there's been no one like her in all of team sport.
For 2 full seasons, fans have witnessed this destructive behavior unfold. Veteran players targeted the very athlete who was filling arenas and putting the WNBA on national television. Association leadership created conflicts instead of solutions during what should have been the league's most promising era. The resentment and jealousy became impossible to ignore. Even casual observers could see what was really happening. Instead of building on Caitlin Clark's momentum, the veterans wasted 2 years undermining the league's biggest asset. They turned potential growth into unnecessary drama simply because they couldn't handle someone else outshining them. Now, that same jealousy threatens to derail the 2026 season, the one that could have been the most historic in WNBA history. Clark, meanwhile, has handled the pressure with unmatched professionalism. She recognizes what it takes to succeed under the spotlight without creating drama or burning bridges with the people controlling the finances. Her voice, which brought millions of new viewers, record TV ratings, and sold-out arenas, is largely absent from the conversations that decide how the revenue she generated will be distributed. While veteran leaders skip crucial meetings and vent online, Clark remains focused on the game and the future of the league. She understands the stakes, knows how to navigate negotiations, and shows the kind of leadership the WNBA desperately needs right now. Fans are starting to wonder if anyone should be leading these discussions. Isn't it the player who transformed the league? league? Clark didn't just improve attendance. She turned regular season games into must-watch events, attracted casual fans, and elevated the WNBA into mainstream attention. Yet she sits on the sidelines while others make decisions that directly affect her career and the future of the sport she helped elevate to new heights. This moment isn't just huge for the WNBA, it's one of the defining moments in women's sports as a whole, and if leadership continues down this path, the league risks wasting an opportunity that Clark helped create.
Into the future, what would you like to see happen as you come to a negotiation?
Well, honestly, I don't think it's just a big moment for the WNBA. I think all of women's sports, I think this is one of the biggest moments we've ever had. So, I feel very confident that we're going to get something done, and that's because we're in this moment because of the product we put on the floor. So we need to be able to continue to do that, and I know everybody's working really hard. There's a meeting tomorrow that's super important, and I truly do believe we're going to get something done here in the next couple of weeks. But like you said, there's a lot of boxes that we still need to check. We've added two new teams. There's going to be more players than ever, and then we have to get into free agency, then have a normal draft as well. So there's a lot of things left to do, but I really do feel confident that both sides are going to reach a deal here.
Caitlin Clark's recent debut as an NBC analyst made one thing abundantly clear. She understands the business of basketball better than the very people claiming to represent her interests. On air, she spoke with confidence about reaching a deal while showing respect for all parties involved. She displayed a level of leadership and maturity that fosters collaboration rather than conflict. Meanwhile, union leaders were busy posting inflammatory social media content and staging publicity stunts. Fans are starting to ask the question everyone's been thinking, but no one will say aloud. Why isn't someone who actually respects the league and recognizes its growth potential leading negotiations for the players? Clark has proven she can manage media scrutiny, business discussions, and professional relationships without causing unnecessary drama. In just one television appearance, she demonstrated more leadership and strategic thinking than the association has in months of disruptive behavior. It's a stark reminder that real leadership isn't about headlines or stunts. It's about guiding the league and its players towards sustainable success.
I'm slated for April 13th, but the growth of the league has been so much. Can you just help us to understand the transition this league is going on right now?
It's incredible, and I remember my first WNBA game when I was a young girl. I went to the Minnesota Lynx when they had their dynasty with Maya Moore, and they were playing the Seattle Storm, and now basically any arena you go to, it's sold out. We're adding 2 teams. We're up to 14 now, and then hopefully getting to 18 in the next couple years. So, business is booming, and that's a really good thing, and we kind of just got to keep meeting the moment. The talent's getting better and better. You see it at the college level coming into the professional game too. So I feel very fortunate, and hopefully have a long career ahead of me as well.
The current leadership has shown that their priorities lie more in fueling public drama and protecting their own competing league interests than in securing the best possible agreements for players who have earned them through performance. They've restricted direct communication between players and team ownership, intensified conflicts instead of fostering collaboration, and turned critical moments into public relations disasters, right when the league needed to project professionalism and stability. Caitlin Clark's approach during her NBC analyst debut couldn't have been more different. She stayed composed while the union created chaos. She remained professional while they acted inflammatory. She expressed optimism while they generated tension. She focused on solutions while they manufactured problems. The contrast in leadership styles is impossible for fans to ignore, especially for those who genuinely care about the WNBA's future. Clark demonstrated exactly what effective, constructive leadership looks like, something the association has failed to deliver for months.
Different type of buzz, and obviously when LeBron comes to town, it's probably really different, but Knicks fans are crazy, and I love it. I love people that are passionate about basketball, so it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you kind of know them inside and out a little bit, Reggie. You've stolen their souls and their hearts with the Knicks fans. You see it? You see how he's kind of like smirking.
But listen, there's a new shooter from Indiana. See, I'm the third best shooter in the state of Indiana now. Okay. It goes Caitlin, Tyrese, and now myself.
We'll have to get Tyrese's opinion on that.
Caitlin Clark may not officially be leading these negotiations, but her actions set a clear standard for what real leadership looks like, especially compared to the current approach of the Players Association. She's showing that the next generation of athletes knows how to grow the game, not tear it down from within. While veteran players stir up drama and controversy, Clark models the professionalism, maturity, and business savvy that could actually deliver a deal benefiting everyone. She's stepping up as the kind of leader this league league desperately needs, even as the old guard continues sabotaging their own success. In her NBC analyst debut, Clark made it clear how leadership should operate: calm, focused, and solution-oriented. She expressed confidence that a deal will be reached in the coming weeks, without skipping meetings, posting inflammatory content, or fueling conflict. Just clear, professional confidence that progress is possible when people choose to work toward it. The 2026 season should be a celebration of what Clark and her generation have built: record attendance, massive TV ratings, and mainstream recognition the league has been chasing for decades. Instead, jealous veterans are putting it at risk, unable to handle sharing the spotlight with someone who earned it. Fans want basketball, not bitter stunts from players who resent the very success they helped create. The question is obvious: should Clark be at the negotiating table instead of the current leadership? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an update.